prepared for that and deal with it in that way, which sounded to me like a broad hint to watch your witness list. So you may not get all the people you want because Mueller's going to have.
Which is what, Caddy, we heard and we're talking about earlier this week that the FBI is looking in not just to the election, but also to a lot of Donald Trump's dealings with Russia going back years.
Yeah, and he has the capacity to expand his brief, and that's why you're getting some members of the intelligence committees, both in the House and the Senate, particularly the Democrats, saying we have to still protect our investigations. We still want access to those sources and to those witnesses as well, because whilst it's great that Mueller's doing his, that's going to take a long time. I mean, that could take years, and they want to be able to carry on moving fast on the investigations they have already going.
Right. And Willie, being the good reporter that he is, picked up that Rod Rosenstein told people yesterday in the Senate that you pronounce it Rosenstein. So thank you, Willie. So as we talk about Rod Rosenstein, one of the things I found so fascinating about your piece is that when Comey was talking to Benjamin Wittes, he actually expressed concerns when he heard Rosenstein had been selected as a deputy attorney general. Why?
So Comey's having lunch with his friend in March, Ben Wittes, and Wittes says, hey, it's great. You've got a new deputy attorney general coming in, Senate confirmed. This will be good. It'll give you some stability. And Comey says, yeah, he's okay. You know, he's a solid guy, but I have some concerns. He's a survivor. This is a guy in Rosenstein who's been around for...
This guy's a bureaucratic survivor. He'll do what it takes.
I think he'd been one of the longest-serving U.S. attorneys, if not the longest serving U.S. attorney in the country. And Comey says, to be a survivor, you have to make some compromises. And what Wittes said, that he was reading between the lines of what Comey was saying, was basically, if Trump is asking me for my loyalty, if he's asking for a pledge, what has he gotten from Rod? And what has Rod had to give up? And as Wittes points out, it only took 2 weeks for Comey to find out what Rod was going to be like under Trump.
And you also talk about Comey's discomfort with a couple of interactions. The first one was the one where Trump had a lot of people in the room, and this 6'8" giant tried to be a salamander with his blue suit. Explain that.
Comey's in the blue room. Comey's standing there, and he is very concerned about being at the White House. He knows all of the criticism he's taken because of the election. He's afraid of what Trump could do. How could Trump embrace him publicly? Would that jeopardize Comey's independence?
Right.
Comey loves his independence. He's obsessed with it. And he's standing in the back of the blue room, and he thinks he's gotten through because he's standing there trying to blend in with the curtains with his blue suit. So he's
on the other side of the room, too. He gets as far away from Donald Trump as you possibly can.
And he's standing there just hoping he won't get called on. And he thinks he's almost made it through the ceremony. And then Trump looks up and says, and there's Jim.
And it goes in and shakes his hand, and then an awkward hug. There's another very, very telling interaction that you write about, that you report on. And it really it doesn't sound so troubling, but it is, actually. And it reminds me an awful lot of the spirit around Bill Clinton getting on the plane to shoot the bull with Loretta Lynch about golf and kids. Talk about Trump urgently calling Comey off of a helicopter.
So Comey's about to get on a helicopter. It's the beginning of March. He's trying to fly actually down to Richmond, Virginia to give a speech on opioids. He's got his SUV. He's about to get up, and all of a sudden the phone rings. They said it's the White House. And he says, well, in what Comey had told others is, look, I never get calls from the White House. That never happens. So he's like, this must be really important. So he picks up, and the president just wants to chit-chat, you know, and talk about crowd sizes and talk about what's going on. And the thing is, the idea that we thought that Comey and Trump were going to work together, like, we should have seen this coming so much.
But I mean, this is Trump, though, doing what Trump does. He was trying to build a relationship, a chummy relationship.
But Comey's obsessed with this distance,
right?
And he's like, I don't want to chit-chat with the president. I don't want to...
Well, I forgot to mention, Gene, the most important part of Michael's article, which was Comey let him know at the very beginning, if you want to talk to me,
do it through channels.
Go through proper channels. Do not talk to me. I'm not talking to you about an investigation. And so Michael set it up very well in the story that and of course, we botched it here. I botched it here because I'm just so bad at this. But he set it up saying, don't call me. Don't reach out to me. I'm not going to tell you about the investigation.
Exactly.
And yet Trump keeps doing it.
Right. So you're right about the mismatch of personalities, right? Trump, who values loyalty over everything else, and Comey, who values independence over everything else. That's not going to work. But the context, the larger context, was this investigation that was going on. And so that made it utterly impossible that they were ever going to.
Joe, I have a question of Michael about this, because, I mean, it's superbly reported and it clearly reflects Comey's view. But why does he keep going and talking to Trump? Why does he take the calls? You say, oh, he didn't want to go to the White House for this law enforcement meeting, but he wanted to represent the FBI. But he knows what the stakes are here. Why doesn't he say no? And what surprises me is he doesn't take the Sally Yates model, which is she's got something, goes to the White House, not to Trump, but to the counsel, McGahn, and says, hey, we've got this problem, let's deal with it. Why does not Comey take himself out of the picture? They can't, at least to the best of my knowledge, kidnap him and bring him down to the White House.
Right.
And there's something about he likes it too much, and he should have cut that cord.
Is James Comey part survivor that he sees in Rod Rosenstein?
I think that Comey is someone that skates towards the puck of the dramatic. You know?
Hold on. Everybody write that down. We're going to use that when people forget.
Right, and picks up the puck and sticks it in his pocket.
And I think that he has some explaining to do, because if Trump in February 14th says to him, hey, you got to move past this Flynn investigation, should Comey have filed a crimes report? Should Comey have told the Justice Department? There's a lot of explaining of how they dealt with the White House that needs to be done.
But that's exactly what he did in the Ashcroft case, though, too. He went home, he kept notes, wasn't revealed until he felt there was a need to reveal it.
And maybe he doesn't think his role. Maybe he doesn't think his role is to come out and reveal it publicly. I mean, he said several times in the reporting that you have that you don't want to be totally dismissive of the President of the United States. So he was trying to walk the fine line between being polite enough to the President, he felt, and documenting the concern he had about the President trying to behave perhaps in a way that was inappropriate.
And Willie Geist as well, he also said that some of these things he wanted to keep to himself, so it wouldn't prejudice the FBI investigators against the president.
Right, and if you listen to Wittes' account, who's a good friend of Comey, it sounds to Comey